The clinical anatomy of the inguinal canal, that is inguinal hernia. Inguinal hernia is defined as the protrusion of abdominal viscera into the inguinal canal. It presents as a swelling in the inguinal region. It needs to be differentiated from the femoral hernia, which also presents as a swelling in the same region. Femoral hernia is more common in females due to a wider pelvis, whereas the inguinal hernia is more common in males due to a larger inguinal canal. The surface landmark used during examination to differentiate the two is the pubic tubercle and the inguinal ligament. The inguinal hernia swelling will lie above and medial to the pubic tubercle and the inguinal ligament, whereas the femoral hernia lies below and medial to the pubic tubercle and the inguinal ligament. The inguinal hernia is mainly of two types, indirect and direct. The indirect inguinal hernia is also known as the oblique inguinal hernia. The protrusion of the hernia takes place through the deep inguinal ring and then it passes through the inguinal canal. Whereas in case of a direct inguinal hernia, the protrusion is from the posterior wall of the inguinal canal. The indirect inguinal hernia lies lateral to the inferior epigastric vessels, that is through the deep inguinal ring, whereas the direct inguinal hernia lies medial to the inferior epigastric vessels. Thus, the inferior epigastric vessels act as a guide to differentiate the direct and indirect inguinal hernias. The indirect inguinal hernia or the oblique inguinal hernia is usually due to a patent processus vaginalis, which is formed during the descent of the testes. Hence, it can descend into the scrotum and is more commonly seen in case of children. However, it may sometimes present at a later age in young adults as they have increased intra-abdominal pressure during weightlifting, etc. The direct inguinal hernia, on the other hand, is due to the weak tone of the abdominal wall muscles. It does not descend up to the scrotum and is therefore seen commonly in the elderly. The indirect or the oblique inguinal hernia is pear-shaped and oblique, that is, it is directed downwards, forwards and medially along the inguinal canal, extending from the deep to the superficial inguinal ring. The neck of the hernial sac is the deep inguinal ring, hence it is narrow and may be irreducible. The direct inguinal hernia is globular and directed forwards, that is straight. The neck is through the posterior abdominal wall and is wide, therefore this hernia is usually reducible. A deep ring occlusion test is done to differentiate between the direct and indirect inguinal hernias. The patient is asked to lie down, the inguinal hernia is reduced. With the help of the thumb or index finger, the deep inguinal ring is occluded. The surface marking of the deep ring becomes important here. Then the patient is asked to stand up while still holding the thumb or the index finger in place and occluding the deep inguinal ring. The patient is then asked to cuff. If there is no swelling, that means it is test positive. That is, the deep inguinal ring is the site for the hernial sac. That is, it is an indirect inguinal hernia. If swelling appears, it is called test negative. That is a direct inguinal hernia which is protruding from the posterior wall of the inguinal canal. The indirect or the oblique inguinal hernias are seen due to the patent processus vaginalis, which is formed during the descent of the testes. It can be divided into the following types. The bubonocele, that is, the proximal part of the processus vaginalis is patent. Hence, the hernial sac extends up to the superficial inguinal ring. The funicular inguinal hernia, that is, the hernial sac extends out of the superficial inguinal ring but stops just above the testes, which can be felt separately. The complete or the vaginal inguinal hernia, that is, the hernial sac will extend into the scrotum and around the testes. The direct inguinal hernia. Here the hernial sac enters the inguinal canal by pushing the posterior wall of the inguinal canal through an area called the inguinal triangle or the Hesselbach's triangle. The boundaries of this Hesselbach's triangle are important. It is formed medially by the lateral border of the rectus abdominis muscle, laterally by the inferior epigastric vessels, and inferiorly by the medial part of the inguinal ligament. The inguinal triangle is further crossed by the medial umbilical ligament, which is formed by the obliterated umbilical artery. This ligament further subdivides the inguinal triangle of Hesselbach into two parts, medial and lateral parts. Thus, the direct inguinal hernia can be further subdivided into medial direct inguinal hernia and lateral direct inguinal hernia. In case of the medial direct inguinal hernia, the floor here is strengthened by the conjoint tendon. However, lateral part of the floor is weak. Hence, a lateral direct inguinal hernia is more commonly seen. The coverings of the hernia are the structures which separate the hernial sac from the surface of the body. In case of the indirect inguinal hernia, it is lined by the peritoneum. Outer to it lies the extraperitoneal connective tissue. Outer to it are the three layers of the fascia, that is internal spermatic fascia, cremasteric fascia and the external spermatic fascia. Outer to it lies the dartos muscle, which lies in the superficial fascia, and outermost is the skin. In case of the direct inguinal hernia, the lateral part, that is the lateral direct inguinal hernia, peritoneum, extraperitoneal connective tissue. Outer to it lies the fascia transversalis, cremasteric fascia, and then the external spermatic fascia. Outer to it again the dartos muscle in the superficial fascia and the skin. The difference between indirect and lateral direct inguinal hernia coverings is the fascia transversalis, which is present instead of the internal spermatic fascia. Now coming to the medial direct inguinal hernia, the coverings are peritoneum, extraperitoneal connective tissue, fascia transversalis, and now the cremasteric fascia is replaced by the conjoint tendon. The outer to that, the external spermatic fascia, dartos muscle and skin. So the only difference between lateral and medial direct inguinal hernia coverings is the cremasteric fascia being replaced by the conjoint tendon. Thank you and a happy learning.